The Carolina Hurricanes on Saturday night were looking to extend their point streak to 8 games, but in the end, just didn't really work out as the Queens, Rooks, and Pawns all got taken down by the Kings and were checkmated by Los Angeles.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Hours, also an AHL writer over at the Calder Times. I'm the co-host of the Searchcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got the first February episode for you guys as we get to look over the questionable calls, the questionable game that was Saturday night with the Carolina Hurricanes against the LA Kings. And we also get to talk about how dominant the Rantanen, Aho, and Blake line were, despite being snake bitten and not getting on the scoreboard, but probably one of the better lines, all things considered, for the Carolina Hurricanes. And at the end, we're going to listen to the Eric Robinson postgame because he gave some very good quotes when it came to him setting some tying milestones and also helping another Hurricane set some milestones as well. Before we jump into all of that, today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Now, we all know what happened in the game on Saturday night. The Carolina Hurricanes lose 4-2 to the LA Kings to see, like I said, their 7-game point streak gets snapped. They were looking to go for 8. The Kings were on their last game of their 5-game road trip. Were 0-3-1 going into the game. And of course, like we saw also the Hurricanes 7-game point streak, ended January by being the Chicago Blackhawks 3-2 and finishing 10-3-2 in that month. And you could kind of tell right away from the game this was just going to be weird because you had the NC State Wolfpack men's basketball team play at 1, had to do the quick changeover. Did manage to get some tidbits from people around the organization when being there was that the ice wasn't going to be really that great because it was pretty hot outside. It was hot inside the building. Basically, just didn't really make the ice in proper conditions. Now, we've seen the ice in worse shape, but definitely wasn't a night where it wasn't giving a pristine condition like it usually is with how the Hurricanes kind of set their ice up. So not going to be ideal in terms of what the ice surface is going to be. And then the game started, and you can kind of tell that it was going to be one of those ones where it seemed like whatever the Hurricanes wanted to do was just not going to go their way. I mean, you got Juha Jaska getting hit from behind by Akil Thomas, almost pulls a Chris Draper and getting his face smashed into the boards. He did get up, Jaska did get up and had his first NHL fight, wins it in pretty quick fashion over Akil Thomas. And it just seemed like that entire night just seemed off. And I mean, I'm not saying it was all like, it's not one of those things where it's like, okay, it's just the refs. They didn't really help the Hurricanes out. And I can attest that, it is tough to officiate games like that, but you can definitely tell that it was a game where you're talking about, Mikko Rantanen gets cross-checked in the back by Drew Doughty. There's a no call there. Juha Jaska gets, boarded, no call there. There was a trip on Brent Burns, which, I mean, his stick broke and he was already kneeling on the ice and the guy just fell over the stick. That, I don't know how you call that a penalty when he's falling over a broken part of the stick. It looked like Dmitry Orlov got hooked, but from, talking to, Mike Maniscalco on the Searchcast, it was that he was losing an edge, but doesn't help that Warren Fogle kind of had a stick on his hand. So it kind of looked like it was a hook. And, a quick whistle on a save by Darcy Kemper that wasn't a save because it bounced off his glove. There was no reason for a quick one like that. The waved off Aho goal where you're saying was a hand pass. And, Blake kind of missed it a little bit, and Rantanen tried to go there and help out, but it was just like one of those like circumstances of like, okay, but it wasn't really a hand pass. It kind of just glanced off his glove. It wasn't trying to give it to him. It's just Rantanen came in to help out because Blake was getting tied up. It's kind of one of those like ticky-tacky type calls. Like, do you really have to like? It seems like hand passes are kind of really being like the new automatic hookings that we see throughout the league, where it's like, okay, touch the glove, boom, automatically a hook. It's like, yes, by the letter of the law, maybe it was a hand pass, but it's kind of like if it bounced off, if it kind of grazed his glove, is it really a hand pass? And you got tied up. It's just you could tell Rod Brindamore was just not happy at all in this game for the fact that just a bunch of missed calls, unfortunate bounces didn't go the Hurricanes' way. I mean, Dmitry Orlov gets pinched. He's trying to fight. Kevin Fiala. Kevin Fiala beats him off it, waits out Anderson and scores. Then the Kings with their fourth goal. It's Kevin Fiala once again, and you don't see Dmitry Orlov very much after the fourth goal. It was just a night where it was officiating, I would say, was part of the problem, but also too just unfortunate bounces, giving up chances to the Kings you really shouldn't have. Despite them, losing 4 straight games, they're still a really good team. And I would say puck luck just didn't really go the Hurricanes' way either, because when you have, the line of Rantanen, Aho, and Blake just having chance after chance after chance all night, which we'll talk about a little more in the second segment, but like you have Darcy Kemper standing on his skull and brain, as Steve Dangle likes to put it, for goaltenders who just play out of their minds. Like, there was a save that he had on Sebastian Aho, which I don't know how he saved. I don't think he even knew he did save it. Or you got Gavrikov knocking the puck, off the out of the crease, right when Seth Jarvis has a chance to put it in. Or you have Eric Robinson, being able to, if he he's back door, if he taps it in, the game is probably tied at that point. But he just puck goes under his stick. Mikko Rantanen's shooting all over the place. It's just either it's block shots or Kemper's finding a way to save it. It was just a culminate. And let's also not forget too, like, most of the team is sick, not by one, but 2 different strands going through that locker room. So it's just tough when you look at the fact that it was just a culmination of, ice surface wasn't great. It wasn't the worst, but it wasn't great. Most of the team is mainly sick. You got unfortunate bounces, calls that were just should not even been called or what have you. It's just one of those things where it was going to be one of those nights where it was already going to be an uphill battle as it was when you're facing a good team like the Kings, but then having to deal with just a lot of stuff that's going off the ice. You don't have Andrei Svechnikov of his upper body injury that he had suffered against Chicago, which Ryan Brindamore said it was weird because he did practice, but I guess it's precaution because the fact that the team's going on a 2-game road trip to Winnipeg on Tuesday, Minnesota Thursday. So it's just, you can't really gauge this type of game where it was just weird seemed like from start to finish. You can just tell it's just Rod wasn't happy. You could tell he wanted to blow a gasket on the bench. Just like I said, because the officiating was just very off all night. You could maybe say both sides, but you can definitely tell it was like the Hurricanes weren't really getting the benefit of the doubt on a lot of things. Like I said, the Brent Burnt trip that wasn't really a trip. The quick whistles on just Darcy Kemper knocking the puck down with his glove. There was no reason for them to call it that fast. Or a mad scramble in front of the goal and for Freddie, and they don't do a quick whistle there. They kind of let them go for about 30 seconds. Like I said, maybe there's a couple that Anderson would love to have back. Probably, maybe the Trevor Moore goal. Maybe the one on Dano. It's just, like I said, this is just one of those games where kind of have to throw it out, not really put it against anyone, because you could tell what guys were healthy and what guys were not. And it's just one of those games, man. What can you do? I mean, luckily the Hurricanes do go back to LA to kind of even up the season series. It stings when you lose a point streak that you were on, but I mean, the Hurricanes are still in a good spot. You're still talking 32, 17, and 4. You're still well in the second place in the division. You're still somewhat close to the Capitals trying to catch them. You're obviously going to make the playoffs with no issues, because I don't know how any team like the Jackets or maybe the Rangers, if that, like the Hurricanes are going to have no issues getting into the playoffs. It's just Unfortunately, it was a game that just didn't go their way, and you could tell from Brendan Moore's reaction post game with the fact that you're talking maybe a sub 2-minute press conference. Just a game that he just did not enjoy, just for the fact of like missed opportunities, stuff that the puck luck wasn't there, and just questionable refereeing. But hey, what can you do? That's welcome to the NHL, man. Sometimes it's just not your night, but you know what? You get you throw it away and figure out what happened and get ready for the next one. They got that on Tuesday night with the Winnipeg Jets. But we did mention about Mikko Rantanen, Sebastian Aho, and Jackson Blake. I think we definitely need to dive into how this line's been over the last couple of games, and how on Saturday night they were probably one of the most dominant lines for the Hurricanes, but they were just snake bitten. So stick around as I'll talk about that line here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, an official partner of Super Bowl 59. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said, we are going to talk about the top line of Mikko Rantanen, Sebastian Aho, and Jackson Blake. Now, this line has been, still trying to figure themselves out, but if you kind of see, like, you're still seeing that slow progression, maybe they're figuring their thing out, and it's one of those things where they're very close to popping off as a group, because you see how Jackson Blake has been playing a lot of great plays recently. Especially in that game against the Blackhawks where, that nice little give and go and stuff like that with Mikko Rantanen, and even, of course, even the Rangers game too. Like, you could definitely tell, like, these guys are kind of like slowly building on themselves. Now, that was the New York game with that give and go, the find Andrei Svechnikov for the second goal. But even the Blackhawks game, too, you can see like there's a little bit of chemistry going there, and that's even with the fact that you talked about, Roslovic saying I'm Rantanen for his first goal as a Hurricane. And, Jackson Blake even said it after the game against the Kings, too. It's like, yeah, even the fact that they didn't have Sebastian Aho during the Blackhawks game, they've been together for about 3 or 4 games now, and they're finding their confidence, and they feel like they're slowly getting there. Yeah, Raw wants him to score, but you could definitely tell from Blake's perspective, for the fact that he's a rookie, already has 11 goals, but you can see like he's making plays, and he's learning from the two of the best. He's learning from 2 really great players. The fact you're talking about Mikko Rantanen, who's, in my opinion, like I said, still a top 5 guy in the entire NHL, and you also got Sebastian Aho, who is probably going to break every offensive category when it comes to records for the Carolina Hurricanes in his career. So he's learning from 2 great guys. It's just, unfortunately, that game against the Kings, they were just kind of stink bitten, because I mentioned back in segment 1, you're talking about Darcy Kemper just standing on his head, just making all these great saves. You could tell these guys were pushing. They were trying to make the plays work. It's they did net a goal, but it was kind of waved off due to just unfortunate circumstances of a hand pass. It's just, but when you look at the natural stat trick, and this is something I found very, very interesting when looking at this. If you're looking at the forward lines for the Hurricanes, and this is for 5-on-5. Now, you had like some lines that were kind of started out but kind of switched off. And like the 2 lines that made it past the 10-minute mark of being together for pretty much a good majority of the game was the Martin McStall and Jarvis line were together for 11 minutes and 16 seconds. Now, they had 13 chances for and let 9 chances, and their Corsi for percentage was 59.09%, which means they were pretty much close to almost having a little bit more possession time with the puck. And they had 2 shots, but they also let 5 shots as well. So wasn't a really bad game for that third line. I mean, you could definitely tell they were creating a lot of chances just with the shots were a little bit on the smaller side, but you can definitely tell those guys were trying to play really hard with play really hard. And that's what you get from the lines of the Jordans and Seth Jarvis. But the line that was really clicking, like I said, this is kind of why this is more of a thing we need to talk about for segment 2, is the Blake Aho Rantanen line. They were together the longest through the entire game, 14 minutes and 40 seconds of total time on ice as a group. Their Corsi for percentage, 86.21. And you're talking about shots for and shots allowed. 9 shots for to 1. They let 1 shot go against them, and they've had 9 shots. But here's the stat that's really something to look at. Their chances for, their chances against. They outchanced the LA Kings 25-4. So that's where you see a Corsi for percentage above 86. When they were on the ice, they mainly had the puck a lot when they were on the ice. And the fact that they outchanced the LA Kings by 21 is crazy to think about, because of the fact that you saw all the chances they were creating. You could tell with, the goal that, the Aho scored but was waved off, or the multiple attempts that Rantanen had to put it in front of the goal that, Blake and Aho were trying to go for. They were trying to even set up Rantanen, and he was taking some shots. He had a couple of shots that almost could have went in if just wasn't Kemper's head was in the way by the goal, because Rantanen went short side a couple times, and he almost had one. And, talking to Mike Maniscalco and Shane Willis, Shane even said, and this is something I found very, very interesting, was the fact that it was, if 3 or 4 of those chances go in, this is a completely different game for the Hurricanes. You're talking, maybe 5-6 goals for the Canes if at least 3 or 4 of those chances went in. That line with 2 guys that were pretty sick, and Aho and Rantanen, and you can tell Blake was kind of feeling a little bit too, but the fact that they chanced 25 and only let up 4 to the Kings, I really don't know what more you can really do with that, for the fact that it's probably one of the most dominant lines of the entire night, and it's just the luck didn't go their way. I think that the better team was the Canes. It's just they just didn't get the chances. And yeah, while the Kings maybe had more shots throughout the game, I think chances were a lot more on the side of the Canes. It's just the bounces weren't really going their way, and that's why I think it's kind of what kind of stink bit them for the most part, is when you kind of see how it just wasn't in the cards for them. Because when you look at when it comes to the 4 lines for the Kings, they didn't really have a dominant line. You had Fiala, Byfield, and Laferriere, 12 minutes and 1 second, 9 chances for, 13 allowed. And then you look at a line like Trevor Moore, Philip Deneau, and Warren Fogle, 11 minutes and 7 seconds, 14 chances for, 13 chances allowed. That they had the highest Corsi of 51.85%. So in terms of possessions, that was their best possessing line, but it was barely by a little over 50%. And even shots for and shots allowed, that was the 6 shots for, 6 and 3 allowed by that Moore, Deneau, Fogle line. Everyone else was, you had Turcotte, Kopitar, and Kempe with 4 shots for and 1 allowed. That's pretty much it. Other than that, there was no real dominant line. Like I said, chances for, 14-13 was the best one for the Kings. When you look at the Hurricanes, 25-4, 13-9 for the Jordans and Seth Jarvis. Even Yaska Suzuki and Robinson went 5-3 in terms of shots for and chances for and chances against. So the Kings weren't really a dominant team. They just were able to capitalize on unfortunate circumstances of fact that, you had Fiala score twice, that, he beats Orlov on the pinch, waits out Anderson, then his second goal goes in. You got Deneau, getting the puck to him after, Orlov loses an edge, and they get the puck to him. And then you got Trevor Moore scoring on a floater that somehow gets past Frederick Anderson. It's just one of those games where it's just the puck luck wasn't really on your side for the most part. And you could definitely tell that Rantanen, Aho, and Blake were the best line of the entire game. It's just they were really just snake bitten and just couldn't find a way to score. But you could definitely tell it's there. You could tell with these guys that they're clicking really well together. And you're seeing that even that progression with Blake of he is finding his game. He's becoming, that player that, the Hurricanes drafted for him in the 4th round and why he was a Hobie Baker finalist in North Dakota. And yes, I know everyone wants Jarvis on that top line, but if you look at what Rob wants to do, he wants a balanced lineup. He wants to roll 4 lines. He doesn't want to have one line play 22, 23 minutes. And Seth Jarvis with the Jordans makes sense, and that's why you see Blake. Everything is earned. It's just not given. And Rod has said he wants to give Blake more minutes because he is kind of like that built prototypical Rod Brind'Amour player. And the fact that he's still young, like he's in his early 20s. Real early 20s. And he's a rookie and he's got 11 goals. Shane said this, and I completely agree with him. I think we will see 20 goals by Jackson Blake this season, especially with the line that he's on with Rantanen and Aho. I think it's very, very much going to happen. So just one of those games, man, where you got goalied and, your top line was the most dominant line. It just didn't really work out. But I can definitely tell you this right now. Keep an eye on Rantanen and Aho Blake. There's going to be a game where you're going to see these guys at least popping out for 2-3 points each, and they're going to score at least 4 or 5 goals for the Canes. So definitely to keep an eye out for that. But another guy who really shined for the Hurricanes on Saturday was Eric Robinson, where he did tie his career high in goals, and he did it in 19 fewer games. So we are going to hear from him in his post-game conference. So stick around as we'll listen to that and give my thoughts on that here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Like I said, we're going to listen to Eric Robinson in this post-game interview and get his thoughts on the game overall and just, with him scoring his 12th goal of the season and just getting a lot of other things that were kind of mentioned through the press conference with him. So without further ado, let's jump into that right now.
I mean, that's kind of tough when you have a chance on one end and it ends up going back the other way. Then it kind of end up being the difference, I guess, is just one of those things that you just kind of have to shake it off and move forward.
Yeah, it sucks. It slips under my stick. I got a chance to tie the game, and happens a lot in hockey. You see a good chance at the other end, and then the other team capitalizes the other end. So yeah, it definitely sucks.
But on your goal, the pass by Bernsey and able to get behind them and kind of get momentum back a little bit for a while there.
Yeah, obviously it was nice at the time. Like I said, it would have been nice to find a way. We have a chance right after too. Just Marty with a good shot there off the post. We had our chances. It just didn't go our way.
Personal milestones I know don't mean a lot after a loss, but you tied your career high in goals, 19 less games. What do you think has worked really well to kind of your fit here in Carolina?
I think obviously early on getting a chance to play with KK and Etchy for a while, got me off to a hot start, and in all sports and especially hockey, I think playing with confidence is everything. So I think I've just been confident in my abilities this year.
How does it feel to know that your goal actually also helped Brett Burns get his 900th career? Does that mean more to you also, the fact that your goal also gave him a career milestone too?
Yeah, it's really cool. Obviously, I'm really fortunate to get to play with guys like Bernsey and Jordo, who have done it, for so long and done it the right way, and guys I looked up to when I was younger. So yeah, just to see 900 points, it's pretty crazy.
We don't know who's dealing with what right now, but how hard is it to gut your way through? And it seems like everybody's got a little bit of something going on right now.
Yeah, it's tough. It seems like it happens at least once a year throughout a team. You spend so much time together. But yeah, good on the guys who have been battling through it.
Big thank you to Eric Robinson and the Carolina Hurricanes always for that. And you can definitely tell in his voice where it's the fleeting. It stinks when, yeah, he scores his goal to tie his career high. He did it in 19 fewer games. You love to see that. I could definitely see where you might see 15 goals at least for Eric Robinson. Maybe getting closer to that 20 range with a lot of games left, and especially, it's just how he's been playing. But he would love to have that one that kind of went under a stick that was on the back door. It was one of those ones where if he connects on that, whole different game, it could be, a lot closer, and then it doesn't go back to the other end and Fiala scores, and it stinks. It's an unfortunate goal that just didn't go your way, and you definitely tell he definitely would want that one back. But like I said, and the thing that's really cool for him, and he even talked about, is where he answers the question that I posed to him of, hey, it was, what's it like just being able to, you're a goal contributing to Brent Burns getting his 900th point. You can definitely tell, it meant a lot to him for the fact that, being with guys like Burns, and when he says Jordan, he's talking about, Jordan Stahl. It's just the fact that he, watched those guys grow up, admiring them and stuff like that, and be able to play with them too. So it's cool the fact that while the Hurricanes did lose, I think that goal for him is probably going to mean a lot too. For the fact, it's a tying of his career high, but it's also helping Brent Burns, achieve a milestone of him being the 13th defenseman to get 900 points in his career. So you love to see that for him, for Burnsy at least, and the fact that Eric Robinson did in a way. But you can definitely tell that that's a game he kind of wished they had back. It's just unfortunate the chances didn't go their way. And what can you really do in that instance? But at least there was, I guess, if you want to go by a silver lining, like I said, 12th goal, 19 fewer games than he did last year. He ties his career best that he had in 21-22 with the Jacket, the Columbus Blue Jackets. And like I said, I definitely think he can get 15 goals at least this season. But it stings for, for the guys, especially with the fact that you're looking at a point streak that was going on. And it was a night where you could have capitalized. It's just, unfortunately, things didn't go your way. But the thing I really like about Robinson is he definitely checks off a lot of boxes for Rod Brind'Amour. And then he's got the speed that, Martin Necas has mentioned before. Seth Jarvis mentioned when he was doing his press conference when he signed his 8-year contract. And a bunch of guys on the team said to the fact that Robinson's got some very underrated speed that, he had in Columbus, he's had in Buffalo. And I think Shane Willis even pointed out too, for the fact that he's finally getting his chance that other teams weren't giving. It was the fact that now he's taking the opportunity because there's a coach behind the bench who's a Jack Adams winner that will give guys chances and give them more opportunities. I think he finally found a coach that was willing to give him his chance of, like, hey, we're going to put you on the top. We're going to put you in the top 6. And we're going to put you in all these different types of situations. And Robinson's really capitalized. And you see why he's able to do what he's done already. The fact that he's, like I said, he's tied his career high in goals, has a chance for 15. And it's a 1-year deal at $950,000. But honestly, for me, I believe Eric Robinson's a guy you give a 2-3 year contract that maybe $1.5-2 million. I think that's a big upgrade from where he's at now at $950. And he stays in Carolina. He doesn't have to worry about, is he going to stay in Columbus or is he going to stay in Buffalo? Is he going to stay wherever he's at? Is he even going to be in the NHL? Is he going to be in the American Hockey League? And I think Robinson has really proven himself to be someone that the Hurricanes could give a, like I said, 2 to 3 year contract for maybe $2 million, maybe $1.5 million, $2 million, especially with the cap going up. They're projecting to be over $93 million next year. I think Robinson's one of those guys you want to give that to. And I think just the way he's been playing recently definitely shows that he could have had 2 goals on Saturday night against the Kings. He already had 1. If he connected on that second one, that would have been a huge game for him. But I definitely think that Robinson is one of those guys you want to keep around for a long time. And it's great to see, like I said, the fact that he's he's already tied a career milestone. Now he has a chance to break it. And I hope he does get 15. I hope he gets closer to 20 because the way he's been playing with his speed, his physicality, like he checks a lot of boxes. He's definitely a 3-zone guy, and some of the Rod Brind'Amour the Hurricanes love to have. So it's just you love to hear from guys who are maybe the unsung heroes you don't really hear talked about enough. I think Eric Robinson is one of those guys who's really coming to his own with the Carolina Hurricanes, with the fact of Rod Brind'Amour being the coach and the team around him as well with that leadership group. I think Robinson's really thriving in Carolina. I think he's finally gotten that chance to prove of who he is as a player. And like I said, I hope he stays here for a very, very long time. But guys, that will be a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen of the day. For your second listen, why don't you go check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey? Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or where you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at @OneShearZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Martin. I do have link trees in both my bios. You can find all my articles at the Hockey Writers, or just go to the I also do AHL content from the Calder Times, which you can find at thecaldertimes.com. If you want to check out my other podcast, well, it's the Surgecast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this show, well, Locked on Hurricanes on Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio. Make sure to follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review, because I might just read it on this show. For YouTube, well, Locked on Hurricanes, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss the show. Leave a thumbs up button, let me know if you liked the show as well. Share with all other Keniacs to become everydayers just like you. But I hope everyone enjoyed the Monday edition of Locked on Hurricanes. I hope everyone enjoys their Monday. And be excited, because I have a great special guest joining me for the Tuesday edition of Locked on Hurricanes. So stick around for that news dropping on Monday afternoon, and look forward to that for the Tuesday show. But hope everybody has a great Monday night. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.